computer. Okay, so we're back to recording, and we've got a yeah, so I didn't give them any blood as it turns out, either back in medical school or today. However, I do have a quick little story for you. I was doing this helping medical students a few years ago draw blood, and one student, she tried on 2 different of her fellow students and could not get it. I looked at her face. She was really looking down, very disappointed, and like this was the end of the world. So I donated my arm to medical science and to her. And I have these gigantic pipeline to Alaska veins, so to speak. They're very easy to access. And so she got the blood draw while I had to watch her, and my palms are sweating as I'm telling you about this. But she got the blood draw, and as it turns out, she's now doing her anesthesiology residency. Now, in anesthesia, you need to draw a lot of blood and start a lot of IVs. So I kind of think I contributed a little bit to her success by allowing her to have the success in her second year. That's just in my mind. Anyway, enough of me. Let's find out about the rest of you. Is there anybody new to the group? Anybody who just found out about this and would like to kind of share who referred them and what they might like to get out of the sessions? Anybody? Rob, I see you are a new name, so nice to have you. Tell us a little bit.
Well, I was given the link to this place by Fritz Deigert, and he's been telling me about plant-based diet and the benefits, and I probably could have used this advice about 4 or 5 years ago before the tumor, but now might as well do what I can afterwards to stay tumor-free.
That's a wonderful reason to be here, so welcome. I'm not sure who Fritz is.
Yeah, he's been to the classes a lot. He came to the classes at the church mainly. I don't know if he's done many of them online, but he was a frequent flyer back when I was doing the classes at the church.
Now I know who he is. I think he even came to the last movie event, maybe.
Oh. Well, we do our sessions on Zoom too, so it was an easy hike over to this one. In fact, I was all excited and got set up and was logged in and everything last week on Monday, and no one was there. And I thought, what's wrong with me? What's not working? Yeah, it's Monday, you fool.
You're not alone. I kind of get the acknowledgments when people log on a different day or time. I don't have an address to send a message back usually that says, hey, the class is going to be on Tuesday evening.
Right.
But glad that you could make it. Anybody else who is new to the class or cares to share anything? It doesn't have to be.
I just did. Let's see if I can bring that back. No.
I'm Marcy McGuire Egglestone. I'm not new to the group. I am coming to you from Pennsylvania. So it's 10 o'clock my time. And a lot of weeks I'm very tired, and I know I won't make it through all the way till 11:30 my time. So I do watch your recorded videos usually the day after. So, but I'm enjoying the workshop, and I really appreciate the effort that's gone into putting such detailed and a variety of resources up that we can go and access whenever we feel like learning about some new topic. So I appreciate all the good work you guys are doing.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And all that good work that is puts the archive files and those the books and the other resources is due to Scott Wagner. I guess I call him my partner in crime. I don't know if it's really a crime that we're promoting. It is to the meat and dairy and egg industry, but Scott,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Partners in, not in crime, partners in truth and health.
there you go.
Yeah. And thank you, Marcia, for Sean. You're Sean's mom, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, we love him. So
Yeah, he's
just
a great guy. And been such a promoter. So, okay, I didn't realize it was Sean's mom, so thanks for bringing that up, Scott. Anybody else have anything they care to add before we kind of continue on from last week?
And for Rob, who's new, if you're not familiar with the class website, I can show you that, and then you can see the class archives, and then you could go back and watch last week's since you missed that if you haven't checked it out yet, and then just that you could even go back to the beginning of the year and start catching up from where we started if you're interested.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
show him that, Scott, and then we'll get to your question, Trouty, and
Okay,
Beth after that.
All right, let's go to the website here.
Cool.
So yeah, it's just www.livelifestylemedicine.com, which is the class website, livelifestylemedicine.com. And then just to give you just to give you an overview, if you want to get a full tour of what's all available on the website, go down here, scroll down the homepage here and watch the website tutorial. You just click on this right here. Watch the website tutorial. It's about 15 minutes. I give a full tour of what's all available on the website. And then you'll see where here is where last week's class was. And then you'll get again more of a tour on the tutorial, but here's class archives. You click on that, and then here's 2023 classes. And then here, of course, here's last week's again, and then you can go back to the beginning if you want. Here's introduction class from my introduction, Charlie's introduction, a couple of classes on meal preparation and planning. We have open forums occasionally throughout. And then we had a couple of classes on weight management and one on food addiction and behavior change. And then again, here was last week's How Our Mind Affects Our Health, part 1, which Charlie's gonna do part 2 tonight. So yeah, definitely bookmark that website, livelifestylemedicine.com, and you can see all the resources here. And then also you can subscribe to the weekly class newsletter if you haven't yet, and just click on that, and you can just put in your email address, first and last name, and hit subscribe. That's it. Then you get an email. You'll receive a welcome email right away, and then you'll receive a class newsletter every Sunday morning. And I put a warning here for everybody, because sometimes people will receive the welcome email and they'll open it, but then, or even get a Sunday morning email a couple of times, and then all of a sudden they'll stop getting them. It's because usually it goes to people's junk file or spam folder because it's a MailChimp account, and sometimes that happens to people. So I always remind people to always check your spam folder, your junk file every week, especially if you don't receive the Sunday morning newsletter, which talks about what the classes that are going to be about. And there's also lots of extra informational things in the email, different activities that are coming up, different resources. So you want to check all that out. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Trouty.
yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I have acute bronchitis and I take Monodox or doxycycline. Is that contagious? The bronchitis?
It depends on whether it's a viral or bacterial pneumonia, and they can be contagious. So I think that it would be safest to wear a mask and cover so that it doesn't spread to other people. It's hard to know.
I just
So
stay home with it, but I'm supposed to take another 5 days. I just wonder something too. My blood pressure was 187/81, What made it go up?
That could be the stress and could, if your blood pressure is generally normal, do you take blood pressure pills?
I have to, every once in a while I do, yes.
It could be extra salt that got in your diet. It could be if you've eaten out. It could be if you just were stressed out because of the cough, or you didn't like the doctor or
Oh, I do like
physician
it.
assistant you saw. Could be a lot of things. So I
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
worry. I wouldn't worry about one reading, but if it continues to stay in that range, then you need to.
Day from 6 o'clock till about till 11 o'clock at night. And the next day it was getting better, coming down.
Well, then I wouldn't worry too much about it then.
Good, good. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's best I stay home for another week, I think, because for if it's viral, you don't take the antibiotics, right?
Correct. But
So
you know,
they'll-
oftentimes doctors write for prescriptions because they're not sure whether it's viral or bacterial. And, especially the older ones of us tend to write for a lot more antibiotics than the younger ones of us. And, there's a lot of art to this, and some of that art is appeasing the patient who's before you. And some patients, we get the sense that they have to have an antibiotic or they're not going to be happy, and they're
Oh
going
my
to write nasty letters about us, and we're going to get, a bad
Wow.
reputation. So there's a lot of things to consider here.
No, I trust that he's okay.
Okay, well, finish the
Um,
medicine and wear a mask if you're going out so you don't spread it to
I
other
don't,
people.
I don't, it's too cold and then I start coughing a lot. I
Okay,
keep it warm in the house. Yeah.
all right, well,
Okay,
get,
that's
get-
all.
all right, get better soon. Beth,
I just wanted to say to the Marcia in Pennsylvania that I'm over here in New Hampshire. So I understand about the time with you. And I really enjoy these classes. I've been coming here for maybe 3 years. And I like looking back on the ones that I have to miss if I'm too tired. But right now I'm good. We're having a big snowstorm. So I had the day off, so I shoveled all day. Thanks.
thanks for sharing that, Beth. You have been a real trooper, have attended. You're in the top few percent, I think, of people who have attended the most number of meetings. Well above the top 10% anyway. All right. Any last words of wisdom? Ready to carry on?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just make sure everybody gets muted for a moment. And then I'll stop intermittently and give you a chance to chime in. How's that sound? I like to try to give you all opportunity to do that, because these classes are for you. This is a especially important class to me is because I was a psychology major at UCLA. I got my Bachelor of Arts degree before I went to medical school. I think I wanted to become a psychiatrist at one point in my medical career, even though I started out in family practice, went into emergency medicine, and now I'm focusing my attention on lifestyle medicine. So this is a topic near and dear to me about how our mind influences our health. And last week we spent some time discussing issues about how our mind influences our health. And we are going to continue on a little bit with some of the resources that I've used that have helped me as I've tried to train medical students about this subject. And as I tried to train myself, actually, I started out on this path of a whole food, plant-based lifestyle back about 11 years ago. And the food really changed my cholesterol level, and I lost weight. I felt better. it was really a benefit to me. And then I was teaching at the medical school, and as I was sharing this information with them, they asked me to kind of share, well, does the food really affect how you feel? And I was kind of curious about it. So I started reading about books, different books. And one of the first books I came across was a book by, let's see, who's the book? Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. He's kind of a motivational speaker for those of you who don't know. And the book was Awaken the Giant Within. And in this book, I read through it a couple times, I think. He started out by really discussing one's state of mind and whether we keep a positive state of mind or a negative state of mind can really influence whether we're healthy or whether we get sick. And he started out by saying your thoughts determine your emotions. And what are some of those thoughts? Some of those thoughts are how we talk to ourselves. And so how we talk to ourselves determines our emotions, and our emotions can alter our behavior and can also lead to a fight or flight response, chronic inflammation, and poor health. So let's talk about how you talk to yourself. So you don't have to show your hands, but I'm going to raise my hand. I got to get back here and say, how at times in my life have I talked to myself? So I failed an ACLS test exam, Advanced Cardiac Life Support test. So what were some of the words that I may have used? You're stupid. How could you do that? You've been a doctor for so long. Come on, Ross, get it together. Now, I'd never talked to a 6 or 7-year-old kid in that manner, but surely over the years, I've talked to myself in that way. And I wonder, just wonder, how many of you talk negatively to yourselves? And the one thing I would like you to take home from the time we're spending tonight is to change that. I've stopped talking negatively to myself. I now talk to myself like I'm a 6 or a 7-year-old child. I am accepting, I try to mold, I try to be kind, and I certainly am not using words that are going to be bullying or, tear down myself or another person. And so Tony Robbins addresses that issue quite a bit, talks about what you think about yourself, but there's another good book. It's called Talking to Yourself by Pamela Butler. And so between those two books, some of the questions that you may choose to ask yourself, which will help determine more positive emotions, are what in my life am I thankful for? What in my life am I truly excited about? What can I do to make someone else feel good? I thought those were pretty good questions that would lead me on the path to a little better emotional state. So a couple more questions. What am I happy about in my life now? And what about that makes me happy? How does it make me feel? What did I learn today? Versus, what can we say to ourselves? Why do I have to suffer like this? Poor me. I'm in a horrible state. If you keep focusing on the hardships in life, it's hard. You kind of get sucked into this black hole, and you want to get out of that. So talk kindly to yourself, say kind words, be encouraging to yourself. And if things don't work out quite right, as we talk about in the classes, we talk about falling off the wagon or cheating or whatever it might be. I don't really like the word cheating. I like the word, we haven't quite made it to picking healthy lifestyle choices completely yet. That yet allows us to eventually make it to the point that we wish to be, or the destination. Now let's talk a little bit about beliefs. The beliefs we have influence our habits. They're often influenced by family and society, and rarely do we take the time to evaluate why we believe, how we believe. And that reminds me of the movie The Matrix. For those of you who have seen that movie, you either get a blue pill or a red pill. One, it tells you the truth, and one is a world of fantasy, or we call it fake news in this modern world. And so the problem is if you hear a lie often enough, sometimes it can actually sound like the truth. So if you haven't spent much time evaluating what your beliefs are and why you believe the way you do, I would encourage you to do that. It's helped me. And then that brings us to values, what we consider important guiding messages by which we live our lives. And so these values, the messages by which we live our lives, and the beliefs determine our behavior. But before they do that, we develop rules of how we play the game of life based upon our beliefs and our values. So let's talk about these rules. So the rules are attempting to make some sense of our values and beliefs. And these can be empowering or disempowering. Again, this comes from Tony Robbins. He made a point. There's two ways of thinking. Let's take the topic love. So you can think to yourself and make one of your rules of how you live your life as, I feel love when I give love. Who's in control there? Someone else or yourself? Yourself, exactly. Now let's talk about another way you could look at this. The way our society teaches us, starting from when we're little kids. I feel love when someone loves me. Now we all know it feels good to have someone love you. But if the rules of how you play your game are only, I feel love when someone loves me, who is that dependent upon? Do you have any major control over that? Not really. It's another person who has the control. So that's what he calls disempowering. You are losing your power if you are living life according to rules that don't allow you to be in control of your choices and your decisions and your feelings. And this is all thought process now. He goes on to say, oh, I tell the medical students this. They're like, I'm feeling successful. I got an A. Well, in my mind, that's not the way to play the game of being a doctor. The way to play the game is when I learn the material and I can really take care of a patient in the best manner, that's when I'm successful. The grades are really meaningless, is what I tell them. But in their mind, they've come out of a college setting and they've got this focus on the rules of the game or be the best and get the best grades, but not necessarily learn the material in a way that's going to help your patient the best way. The next and last point that Tony Robbins makes is expanding your references. And what he says is the world is an exciting place to live. You can explore the world for additional tricks or techniques to make you a more skilled practitioner in whatever you do. Read and look and listen and feel and search for different ways of doing things. Come out of your safe zone and experiment a bit. And with that said, I'd encourage you to read the next book. How many books do we have up our sleeve? A lot. Most of these are on the website that Scott has listed them. And this is, I'd encourage you to explore the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And in his book, he talks about how different people have different love languages. They require different things to feel the love. Their rules are different. But if you can just imagine this, if you travel to a foreign country, like let's say you go to France and you only speak English, you have no knowledge whatsoever of French, and you're sitting together with another person, how easy is it for you to be able to communicate with each other? Not so easy, right? It's pretty difficult to understand each other. And that is what Gary Chapman says about marriages. Marriages are like people having different love languages. And if you don't understand or learn the language that your partner has, you're not going to communicate very well, and you're not going to be very happy. You're not going to get your love tank filled up very often. And he breaks this down into 5 different areas, which you may wish to read about. Some of them are physical touch. Some of them are gifts. Some of them are words of appreciation. Some of them people feel love with helping them do tasks or spending time together, dedicated time together, maybe the most important issue. And there's another one which I can't think of at this moment in time, but it's worth reading through the book for you to understand that oftentimes relationships don't last long because of this different love languages. So I learned a lot from that book. The next book that I want to go on to discuss with you is The Wandering Mind and Black Holes. It's called The Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living by Amit Sood. And I've read this book several times, and I've referred it to a number of people, and I think Ridge has that on there. Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living. So let's talk about Amit Sood and what he has to say. It's the one book that I recommend to everyone, actually. And he starts out by talking about the fact that our brain has 2 modes of attention. It has a default mode and it has a focused mode. Now, the default mode is one that brings us back to the jungle when we were roaming the jungle at one point in our history. And we had lions and tigers and snakes and other dangers to always be on the lookout for, to keep from getting eaten or getting killed or whatever it might be. And we no longer live in the jungle like that, but we live in the modern jungle. And that modern jungle has a number of things which we view as threats. We view a threat like, hey, we're going to have a huge tax bill this year, or geez, inflation is busting our budget, or are we going to get shot on the mall when we go for a walk? There are so many threats. In fact, he says we have about 150 of these files that are in our brain, and our brain will just keep going from one to the other. One file to another file, one problem to another problem, and we could do that all day long. Well, where does that leave us in terms of finding joy in our life and being able to live our life in a happy space? And that happiness will actually lead to health, as you'll see by the time we get done. So if you're constantly allowing yourself to be in this default mode, that's not the healthiest choice. There is an alternative. And he says the alternative is focused mode. Actually practicing being in the focused mode of your brain, not the default mode. That's the one that has all the problems. The focused mode is the one where you are meditating, focused on your breathing, meditating, walking out in nature, looking at the trees, listening for the bees, really taking in what's going on with your life right now, not what happened in the past, not what's happening in the future, but how you're living your life and how you're feeling right at this moment in time. And if you practice staying in the focused mode, it will keep you from falling into the black hole, which leads to anxiety and depression and so much chronic illness. All right. So when you're focusing your attention on nature and other thoughts that are joyful, you actually put yourself in a positive frame of mind instead of the negative frame of mind, thinking about all the problems that you have. And that will lead you to better health. So he has some exercises early on in the book, which I've practiced, and I encourage you to practice them. The first one is gratefulness. So when someone comes into me and says, "Doctor, I'm feeling depressed. I just don't have much to live for, and life is not okay. I'm feeling sick to my stomach. I have chest pain and headache and heartache." I try to help them focus on what Amit Sood is suggesting. Focus on the issues that you're grateful for. The issues you're grateful for may actually put a smile on your face, because if you're grateful for them, you actually like the interactions you've had. You like the experiences, and you want to focus your attention there. So in the morning, before you ever get out of bed, he recommends thinking of 5 things or people that you're grateful for. When I get up in the morning, one of the first things I think about is I'm grateful for my wife who's sitting next to me. We've been married for over 40 years now. And I might look over briefly and say, I'm grateful to have you in my life. And then I'm thinking some more, and I'm grateful for my grandkids. I've got 6 of them now, and I focus on their faces, and I spend a little time thinking about how grateful for my grandkids. I'm thinking about my kids, and then I'm grateful, and notice the order in which I'm grateful, because the kids have caused me a little more pain than the grandkids, or a lot more. I don't know if that same happens with you all, but and then I think about, like, today I went to the medical school. I'm grateful to be able to spend time with the medical students. And today also I was grateful of having this class tonight. It brings me joy to spend time with you. So if you do that before you ever get out of bed in the morning, it'll be a good way to practice keeping your brain in the focused mode, taking it away from the default mode. If you stop being in the focus mode, where's your brain going to go? It's going to track right back to all the problems in your life, those 150 files that are going to kind of suck the life out of you bring you back into that black hole. Another thing he recommends is focusing your attention on compassion. And how do I do that? So I'm standing in line and I see someone who's fumbling with their wallet. And, I'm in a hurry and I want to kind of get through the line. And what's my first thought? Come on, can't you get your credit card out and get this over with so I can get through the line? I've done that a lot of time. But after reading through Amit Sood, I changed my thoughts. How did I change them? What do I change them to? I say a phrase, quote, just like me. I say that to myself. And when what they're doing now, did I ever do that? Yeah, I was fumbling around with my credit card at one time or another, or couldn't find something, and people were kind of waiting and saying the same thing about me, just like me. It allows you to be a bit more compassionate, and it takes away the anger and discomfort you feel about what other people might be doing. The next thing he recommends is acceptance. And he says, stop trying to change your partner. I have done that so much. It's not just my partner, it's everybody who I run into. But sometimes I'm successful enough with other people that I actually keep doing this. With my partner, I've tried to back off. It's sort of like, the serenity prayer, God, give me the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. So that can be challenging for all of us to know when to be pushing and when to just become more accepting. He goes on, there's only a couple more things, and then I'm going to stop because then we're going to practice a little bit of techniques here of what we can do. Meaning in life. He says it's so important when you get up in the morning to have something that's meaningful in your life. I think the Japanese phrase is ikigai. You need to find your ikigai. That could be volunteering somewhere, it could be helping out a friend, it could be whatever you choose that it is. Reading, I don't know, writing a book, playing music. Find your ikigai, get meaning in your life so that every day you're interested in getting out of bed and living your life. And the last thing he talks about is forgiveness. And I must tell you, in the past, when we had in-person classes, we had classes on forgiveness. And the forgiveness classes were powerful. I had tears, I had strong emotions, listening to people as they relate how angry they are about how someone killed one of their relatives because they were a drunk driver, or how someone was shot by a person that they never got justice in that circumstance. And he says, if you carry around this anger with you about being hurt and harmed, it's like carrying around junk in the trunk of the car. Learning to forgive does not necessarily mean you have to go up and forgive someone who's really harmed you or a family member. But in your own mind, you have to, if you learn to let it go and forgive in your own mind, you don't have to write a letter, you don't have to tell the other person about this, but at some point, it takes you away from being in prison. And that brings me to the story about this. There were two soldiers from the Vietnam War. They met at the wall in Washington, D.C. You know, that black wall that has all the names of people that are killed? And these soldiers, both of them, were in a prison camp together. They came back, they found themselves meeting together at this wall. And one, after their greetings together about, hey, I haven't seen you in such a long time, and it's great to see you, man, and on, The one person says, so, how you getting by? Have you forgiven our captors who tortured us? And the other soldier tells him, I'll never forgive those people. They kept us in prison. They whipped us. They beat us. They tortured us. I'll never forgive them. So the other soldier says to him, well, I guess you're still in prison. And so it's a powerful story that really, at some point in time, letting that go is so important, and it can cause you to be, again, sucked into this black hole of anxiety and depression. And with that, I'm going to stop. We're going to have a little discussion, and then I'm going to go on to some mindfulness techniques and some other kinds of things. But first, I want to, let's see. I never actually needed to share my screen. So I can see all your faces here, or a lot of them. And so I'm just curious, has anybody had any experiences in your life which may relate to any of this that we just talked about that you'd care to share? So Eureka and Edward, just unmute.
Yeah, I've got at the beginning of 2020, when I lost my job, it was not the greatest time in my life, and my dad had just died, and so there was a lot going on. And I hate is a strong word, so that's why I use it when I say I hate my former bosses, but I think I am finally getting to be at a point where it doesn't bother me as much as it did at the time.
So it's bothering you less because you've kind of forgiven what's gone on in your mind?
I want to say no, but I just don't think about it as much.
Okay, well,
No. When I do think about it, then I get sucked into that black hole that you're talking about. But I'm somehow able to pull myself back out.
okay. So if you found yourself, you saw something on a movie that reminded you of that time when you were with them, in going into the future, it could kind of drag you down intermittently. So at some point, you may want to try to reframe, focus on some of the things that actually were beneficial during that time, and push the other off to the edge of the frame so that you can kind of see a different picture. And you can do this in your mind.
Mhm.
Just my thought. It sounds like you're getting close and that you've come a long way from where you were before. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy, I think.
Great. Anybody else?
I would like to say something.
Yes,
Doug and
Abby.
Doug and I had a very sudden move 5 months ago, and we had to move from the home that we had lived in for 50 years, where we had, raised our children, and we had anticipated that we would never move, that we would live the remainder of our lives there. And the decision was made very quickly. So it was an extremely stressful move. And it was physically overwhelming and emotionally difficult. And we decided, once we got to the new location that we were at, that each day was a struggle to deal with all of the stuff and getting settled and just doing all of that. So we didn't use the terms that you presented tonight, the default mode or the focus mode, but we have intentionally chosen that focus mode. So now what we do every single morning when we wake up, Doug looks at me and says, so what kind of a day is this going to be? And we have to put our arm up and go, awesome day. And then after we do the awesome day, we put music on. We've chosen some songs that we really like that have really positive attitudes in them. We put that on our Bose speaker loud and we dance for 3 minutes while that song plays. And so it just really gets us started to not focusing on being overwhelmed and looking at, this is a good day. We're alive, we're healthy, we're well. We can make it what we want it to be. And it has really helped a tremendous amount. And I look at some other people that are in stress and they're not doing that. And I'm feeling really sad for them that they're not choosing joy.
That is a wonderful example, Evie. Thank you so much for sharing that
Yeah.
with the group.
Yeah.
Wow. You've inspired me to do that.
Well, there's some, you need to what we found is it really helped to look at music that we really liked. And there's just some songs that, bring us a lot of joy. And we have songs that our grandson, Katy Perry has a song, Firework, and we love that song because it makes us think of him. So we dance to that. There's Mandisa has a song, Good Morning. That's really, really good. And there's a song from the South called Shut the Door. And it's shut the door, keep out the devil, shut the door, and it's just, they're really good messages that get into our head. And, when we're dancing and moving to it for the full 3 minutes, you can't help but smile and just step out into the day with joy. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Anybody else have anything they wish to share or contribute to the group? It's more powerful than me standing up here and spouting off. Yeah, Trouty. Unmute yourself.
Okay. After I had my open heart surgery, I learned to really enjoy every day. And of course, now a lot of people at my age are already dead. So I celebrate every day to be something special. So, there are moments where I have problems. I don't want to go into it because it will drag me into the hole.
Yeah.
So all that behind me. But every day, and especially this kind of food that I'm taking now, makes a lot of difference. So before I had a cardiologist who said lots of eggs, lots of meat and all that, and that's caused the problem. But now I'm totally changed and I read a lot of books and so on. And it helped me. Every time I learn something, I'm happy about it. I can apply it. And I'm now 83, so going on 84, and I'm happy about it. And I can move around. I don't have much of a problem at all, health-wise, except that little stuff I told you about, But
Yes.
generally, I'm happy that I can make it as long as I do. And every day it's a celebration.
Thank you for sharing that. We're happy for you also. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So I want to continue on and talk about some mindfulness techniques that you might use that people have found beneficial in their life, that can improve their mood, lower their blood pressure, make them just healthier. And so I want to start out by just doing a quick little 5-minute meditation. Some of you may not like to sit still for 5 minutes, but I want to share this with you. It's from Amit Sood, and I think it's a pretty good one. And I I'm gonna share my screen. And it'll just be one. I might even only just play half of it to give you a sampling. And then I might play another different kind of stress management. I think I'll do that. So don't get too upset if I turn this off in the middle. Let's see, I just need to find it here. Here we go. Okay. Huh. All right. I've got to go to 4. It's the wrong one. Huh. I had this. Let's see if it's here, here, here. Where is it? Okay, there it's, here it is. So it's not here. So I'm very sorry that I lost it. I had pulled it up before, and so I'm gonna need to go back to my let's see, my tip videos, and I got to go to number 4, and hopefully it's there. And here it is, recharge 5-minute meditation. If you're not done meditation before, try to do this for just a couple minutes. I'll stop it after a couple minutes.
Let us settle ourselves in a quiet, safe, and comfortable place. Start your practice by welcoming this lovely hibiscus that is slowly waking up to the world. Notice the 5 overlapping petals. Notice their color, the shallow wrinkles on their surface, and folded wavy edges. Notice also the still leaves in the background. When you're ready, gently close your eyes, making sure your eyelids are only lightly touching each other. Now, we will synchronize our breathing with the 2 flute sounds. This is the sound for breathing in, and this is the sound for breathing out. Begin slow, deep breathing, synchronizing your breath with the 2 flute sounds. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale.
So that was halfway through that meditation. And I know for myself, I had to stay focused. I was thinking, I was in the moment, and I didn't think about what happened to me earlier in the day. I didn't think about what I need to do tomorrow. I was focused on that flower and the green leaves. And that is what we're talking about when we're focusing our attention right now. Okay, wasn't the default mode. Let's go to another option. Some of you may find a little bit more, if you have trouble holding still, you might find something like this, a relaxation response by Price. I'll play this for just a few minutes also, and then I'll stop.
Dr. Morton has been talking about the stress response, and I'd like to thank him for the opportunity of sharing with you the power of the relaxation response. As he has pointed out, it is all about the mind and body relationship. When we think stressful thoughts, our bodies respond in stress. But when we take control and start to think relaxing thoughts, it can lead to a very powerful reaction. It's called the relaxation response. This isn't about magic or some sort of mysterious mechanism. It is really an inbuilt reaction. So I'd like you to think about how you can take control of some of those reactions to stress. I want you to be sitting comfortably on your seat. I'd like to have a bit of room around you if you can, so you can hang your hands down the side of the seat. And we're going to think about the symptoms of what it is like to be relaxed. But I know for many, you haven't been there for a long time. So we might start with a little bit of tension. That's tension in your hand. Now, if you're right-handed, you start with your right hand. If you're left-handed, you too can do this exercise, but you'll start with the left. So you're sitting there comfortably on your seat. You may choose to close your eyes because it'll help you concentrate on the exercise. It's not necessary, but it might be easier this way. And what I want you to do is just squeeze a bit of tension into your hand. Not too hard. If you've got long nails for the ladies, you may like to flatten your hand out a little bit. And as you squeeze your hand tight, you can feel tension in that hand. Squeeze it a bit tighter and you feel tension in your wrist. Do you know if you were to squeeze your hand very tightly, you might like to try this, you will feel tension coming up your arm. And if you squeeze it extremely tightly, you can even feel that tension flowing up into your shoulder and maybe your neck. Then let go. Just let go. Let your hand dangle down the side of your seat. And picture that tension all flowing out. Wriggle your fingers. That tension's dripping out on the floor, as it were, but don't worry, we'll clean it up later. So you just let the arm feel heavy, heavy and relaxed. That's what it feels like to be relaxed. Most people say my arm feels heavy, heavy and relaxed. There may be about 10% of the people that I've worked with over the years who say my arm feels light, light and relaxed. Just work with whatever works for you. Now we want to picture that heaviness and relaxation in your hand. Wriggle your fingers slightly and picture warmth flowing back into your hand. Think to yourself, my hand feels warm, warm and relaxed. Just slow your breathing down. Just might like to take a good breath in. Then when you're ready, just sigh it out. Do it again. Good breath in. And when you're ready, just sigh it out. Come back to your hand. My hand feels warm and relaxed. Now I want you to picture that warmth flowing up your hand and into your arm. Flowing up your hand, into your arm, maybe even all the way up to your shoulder and neck.
Oops.
Hand. Heavy arm.
Okay, I'm feeling relaxed. I almost went to sleep. Um, I'm, I, I want to share these with you because we don't oftentimes get a chance to kind of practice. This is sort of like the how to cook with, how to chop up garlic and let it rest, or how to cook without oil. This is how to deal with keeping your mind in the focused mode. And you need some specific exercises, and some will work for you and others may not work for you. You all get to choose, and the more variety you have in your tool bag, the more you can strengthen your brain and have it focused in the focused mode. It's sort of like building a muscle by you practicing. There are times when I feel more like the first video where I just want to be relaxed. There's other times I want to move a little bit, like get the tension in my arms and in my legs. He goes on to that, kind of a total body thing over the next 5 minutes or so. There are other ways of practicing mindfulness or keeping you at a focused attention. And so breathing seems to be a common theme. When you take slow breaths in and out, it's a kind of a break on the sympathetic system, nervous system in your body. That's the fight or flight system, that you have these various problems in your life and it kicks out the adrenaline or epinephrine, causes your heart to race, your blood pressure to go up, all these other things. So you can do meditation by just sitting. You can meditate by walking, what you're seeing and hearing and feeling. When you're doing driving, how do you meditate while driving? Well, most of us get in the car and we drive to the market and we don't see the trees on the road or even focus on the cars around us. We just are thinking about, geez, we need to buy 5 apples and a few bananas and whatever else you're going to buy to eat, some hummus. And, our mind is thinking about what we're going to do or what happened early in the morning instead of focusing that we're actually driving the car and what's going on around us. Again, one way is staying in the default mode, which we tend to do automatically, and we do that automatic drive. I know all of you have done it. I've done it myself. And it takes some practice. Eating, could you actually practice being in a focused mode while you're eating? And the way that you do that is, let's just take a tangerine or a raisin, and you hold the tangerine in your hand, and rather than just ripping off the orange skin, you actually hold it in your palm of your hand for a few moments, and you ask yourself, I wonder where this grew, what part of the country or world this came from, and what were its neighbors like? Do you think a bird stopped by to say hello to it along the way? You can be as creative as you wish to be, and then you want to take that skin and maybe take a little piece off, but rather than ripping it all off and quickly eating the orange, you may just kind of smell it, or you may want to feel the texture on the outside skin and how it has these little dimples in it, and look at where the stem was on that, and just go through it as you're going through. You could eat this way if you practice 1 meal a week. It would give you practice staying in the focused mode when you're just spending more time actually savoring your foods. Let's see, what else do I want to go? So we're in a rush. And what are we rushing to? Are we trying to get happier? Are we rushing to escape? Are we trying to escape pain or fear? What do we really want in our life? Some of the words that come to my mind: love, safety, security, adventure, connection with community, acceptance, freedom, meaning. How do we find it? So there's an old song some of you in my age group may remember. It goes something like this: I'm in a hurry and don't know why. I rush and rush until life's no fun. All I have to do is live and die, and I'm in a hurry and don't know why. Some of you may remember that song. It could be better replaced with "Don't worry, be happy." And I'm sure many of you are familiar with that song. So to live a life that truly flourishes, that's what we're trying to do. And you don't have to be in a rush about it. I want to go over a few more issues with you, and then I'll open it up for some more questions. Happy people, they actually tend to live longer. How do we know this? Well, baseball cards. That's how we know this. So what about baseball cards would lead us to the fact that happier people tend to live longer? Well, someone devised this experiment. They took these baseball cards and they separated them into piles. They separated them into, one of the piles were the baseball players on these cards that had kind of a deadpan face, no smile, nothing happy about it. They put them in one pile. Then they had a pile with people with a tooth grin smile. They look like happy baseball players. And so then what did they do? They went back and looked to see, how long did these people live? When did they die? How long did they live? So guess what? The people with the toothy grin smile lived 7 years longer. That's pretty impressive. It caught my attention for sure. And so you may want to consider that when you're thinking about, should I be smiling or should I be frowning? If you engage with life, you find work or hobbies that you enjoy, and relationships are so important. They're more important than achievement. Loving, being loved, along with good social relationships, leads to increased health and happiness. I've got a video on that. It's a Harvard study, and we may get a chance to share that with you at some point between this week and next. We tend to become like those we hang around. And again, the meaning in your life is important. Having something to wake up for. Viktor Frankl has a good book, The Search for Meaning. It's a feeling of belonging to something bigger than yourself. It can really be life enhancing. All right. Time for some more videos or time for some more discussion. I'm gonna open it up to the group, see if there are any thoughts from anyone. I know you're sitting on your hands, just chomping at the bit, waiting to make a comment about my singing, perhaps. Trouty.
Yeah, I have a personal, in my family, my dad was very down, matter of fact, very like a very serious person. He only lived to be 76 years old. My mom, on the other hand, was always a happy type. No matter what happens, she makes something good out of it. She lived to be 93.
Wow.
So this tells me, hey, I like to be like that. And I have the genes probably for that. I always think on the positive. Majority of it, if something happens, I draw out very quickly. So anyway, that's probably what my game is. My goal is 93.
That's great. And you didn't need the baseball card experiment.
No. I have it in my
conclusion.
family.
That's great. Anyone else? Care to comment? Have anything that's on your brain?
I have
Okay, yeah, Marcia.
well, I just got a call from my daughter and she has lumps in her breast. And I said, well, do you want me to come out? And I said, I could be your chef. I could cook you whole foods. I think that would help you because I know her body is inflammatory, but I'd like to get it out of inflammatory, but she's got to want to do that. But I don't know with this wake up call if that's even a possible. I don't know.
It's definitely a possible. I had a call over 5 years ago from a cousin who had the breast cancer diagnosis. It wasn't just the lump. She had breast cancer with some positive lymph nodes, and she and her husband decided together, they looked at the literature and decided they were going totally whole food plant-based. They chose not to do chemotherapy or radiation therapy, and it's been 5-6 years and she's cancer-free at this point in time by
I know
dietary
that,
change.
but how do you get the horse to the water?
You can share some videos. You can share the video of the guy who was given 6 months to live, and that was several years ago.
Chris Rock?
I don't know if it's him. It's Hope, Hope.
Okay.
He was given 6 months to live. If you want that video, I can, share the site with you or whatever,
I would like to see that, yeah, and then I could share it with her.
All right, so why don't you send me an email? I need to get that from you. Send it to C. Ross, like a cross, at westernu.edu.
C. Ross. At
Like
what?
cross, CROSS, at westernu, like Western University, westernu.edu. And
All right.
then I will send you the stuff. And then also there is if she dare go on our site and look at the cancer from last year, it's a free thing that she might choose to do. And you could tell her, hey, look, you may want to listen to
Yeah.
Yeah.
some of
She may,
this.
and she may also want to read the book. It's on the website under the books section. Breasts, an Owner's Manual by Dr. Christy Funk. She's a breast cancer surgeon.
Right. I was listening to her earlier on a YouTube.
Yeah, that's a great resource too, because she's integrating nutrition and lifestyle. She's very knowledgeable about that, but she's also a breast cancer surgeon, so she still recommends, chemo in certain situations, radiation in certain situations, traditional care, but then as an adjunct doing the diet and lifestyle, which everyone's got to make that decision for themselves.
And this is what I understand. And my daughter has known for quite a while that I eat whole foods, and she knows why I'm eating whole foods. And I mean, she was just crying, and I thought, good grief, do something about it. Go Whole Foods and just see what happens.
Yeah. So you've set the example. You've done great. Do not put the burden on yourself that you have got to convince her.
She's got 2 young kids. One's just graduating high school. Another is in, I think, a sophomore in high school. So she's still got young kids to maneuver through life. And, I think, she got divorced a year ago. This could be part of it. The stress that plays on our lives, it's not a good thing. So anyway.
So remember, it's taken probably 10 years for cancer to have been growing to where it becomes 10 or 15 years to where it becomes
right.
Evident.
Detectable.
But she can't even feel it yet. So it was just from a mammogram.
Yeah. So in that case, it's still been growing for quite a while.
Right.
And yet a number of those cancers will resolve on their own with cutting down on the inflammation or with chemotherapy or radiation therapy or combination of all. And surely the diet is not going to be harmful in any way to her, and in whatever other choices she might make, it would help her. But again, you do your best, but do not beat up on yourself if she's not willing to listen, because I mean, I'll tell you, it's a tough sell to change people.
Oh, it is. I know. I live in a community. Everybody's sick. I'm not, but they are, and they love their hamburgers and their meatloaf and their all their crap that they're eating. And I
Yep.
think, gosh, I'm eating Whole Foods. I don't have a single problem in the world. It's wonderful. I love Whole Foods. It's a miracle.
Yeah, and that crap is calorie rich and processed food.
It is.
Yeah, we get it. That's the mnemonic for it. Thanks for sharing the story. Anybody else? I'm looking around to see if I see any hands that may have protrude up, or a wave, or a unmute. Going once. Going twice.
Yeah, I have something. Charlie,
Yeah.
hi.
Arun.
Yeah, hi. One of our neighbors passed away of cancer a few months ago, but he was total vegetarian. And so his wife is giving away some of his possessions. And I got a couple of wonderful books. One of them is called Forks Over Knives.
Uh-huh.
It's recipes. And the other one is the Blue Zone Kitchen. So I am looking forward to reading and making some of these recipes. They are both about holistic, whole grain, plant-based foods.
Both of those are excellent sources from my understanding. I haven't seen the Blue Zones book. Scott, have you?
Not that particular cookbook, but of course I've read the Blue Zones, a couple of the
Yeah,
different Blue
right.
Zones books.
Yeah, this is put by National Geographic. And let's see. I guess it's hard to show you, but it has about 100 recipes to live, to be 100.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and Forks Over Knives is an excellent, wonderful site,
Yeah.
for sure. So that's good.
And I agree with you. Why worry? Be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been focusing our attention on a little bit of different aspect than just the food. But for next week we have a session, Scott. Is it scheduled that we can play a few more videos?
Yeah, so it's just that how food affects our mood is next week. But
Yeah.
You should have time to play a video, or you can play that video now, whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, I'm just kind of seeing if we have any other questions first before we play some more videos. I've been having fun with you.
Nothing?
Okay, so let me share my screen if no one else has anything that they wish to contribute. I guess I also want to ask, aside from this topic, does anybody have any questions? I think I see a couple of new names that are related to just food as medicine, and you're like, hey, how much vitamin B12 should I have? And what about your website or anything like that? Before I go on, just feel free. It doesn't have to be on your mind and health.
I have a question on that.
Okay.
I watched some of the webinars that the plant-based doctors had a few days ago.
Yep.
And one of them talked about the COQ10 and GG Pure. Do you want to shed more lights on those things?
I didn't hear the second one. I know the CoQ10. Did you hear, Scott?
I didn't know what, yeah, I wasn't familiar with the second one, but the
It was
COQ10. yeah.
something that this guy designed. It's a GG Pure. It kind of supplements, works with COQ10. And it does the same thing, it takes away the bad effects of statins in your body.
Yeah,
And-
so
yeah.
CoQ10 is something that is recommended to be taken if you're taking a statin.
Right.
Because the statins interfere with some metabolic pathway, and CoQ10, I don't even know exactly what it does, because I don't encourage a lot of statin use.
Right.
But if someone is taking a statin, I think the current recommended treatment is to add CoQ10. I don't know I haven't actually heard about the other issue to take with it.
I see.
And what I do is I try to focus people's attention to say, you're taking the statin. If you haven't had a heart attack or you haven't had a stroke, the benefit you may be interested to know is not so great. It's like for over a 5-year period, 1 person out of 104 may achieve benefit, not have a stroke, but people are going to have side effects with it. And do you want that if you haven't had a stroke or a heart attack? And so I say, rather than focusing on taking CoQ10 and the statin, how about focusing your attention on changing what you're actually eating to something that'll actually bring you health, not only reduce your heart attack risk, but your diabetic risk and your decreased risk of kidney problems, arthritis, and all the other chronic illnesses that are around on our planet. So that's what I try to focus the attention on. And so, and also the microbiome, how important it is to be eating more fiber and less of the animal products because they change the microbiome and produce TMAO, and on the story goes. So I really don't get involved too much. But if you're taking a statin, take CoQ10 at a minimum. Whether you need to take that other thing, I don't know, but I'll keep my mind's eye open for articles.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, they were basically saying that as we age, we don't seem to produce some particular thing. I forget what they said. So it helps your body kind of balance that. So that's what I got out of it.
And if you're taking the statin, it's probably okay. But if you're really doing totally whole plant foods that are essentially non-processed or so minimally processed, your cholesterol level is likely to come way down. Your risk of having heart attack or stroke is likely to be very insignificant. And so that's just my thought.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Charlie, I have a abdominal aortic aneurysm, and
Yes.
it's around 3.5 centimeters, something like that. It's gone from, in the last 10 or 12 years, gone from more or less normal up to that. On whole food plant-based, do you think that'll stabilize it?
Yeah,
Any
3.5 is pretty minimal in my mind. If you told me you were 4.5 to 5, then I'd be biting my nails. So you've got a long way to go. Up to 3 is generally considered okay. So you're just over it. So I'd say this is giving you your best chance of that. And as long as your blood pressure is well controlled, if it's well controlled, you're not going to be putting that stress on the wall to keep expanding out. And eating whole plant foods. Dr. Esselstyn would say, dark green leafies many times a day so that you, for your snack foods, so that you keep your arteries as healthy as they can be. Let them heal themselves as best as they can.
And my doctor put me on statin, but I seem to be having problems associated with that, so I discontinued them.
And so tell them about that. Hey.
Well, I did. And I told her, that I discontinued. I went off and I seemed to get better, went back on, got worse, and did that twice. And I told her I was getting into whole food plant-based, and she said, great.
Well, good for her.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry at the 3.5. I think you still got plenty of tread on your tires. Joan,
I have a question about nuts. I'm trying to follow the Daily Dozen checklist and use 1/4 cup of walnuts on my oatmeal in the morning. But then I watched Dr. Esselstyn's video and he didn't like nuts.
yeah, he doesn't
No
like
oil.
nuts or any fat. It's and what Dr. Esselstyn is doing is he's reversing heart disease. So if
Mhm.
you have heart disease and you're trying to reverse it, I would say no nuts. My wife and I went nutless for our first 2 years to unclog our arteries and to really get back. And once we were feeling healthy and decided we'd been doing this for long enough, it usually you get reversal of the clogging of the arteries over 1 to 3 years. So we thought 2 years was a good time. Then we decided to add a few nuts into our life after we had really cleaned our arteries out. So if you don't have heart disease, doing Gregor's Daily Dozen 1/4 cup is probably just fine because there are benefits to eating nuts in your diet. Scott probably knows more of the points on that than I do, actually.
Yeah, it's just that same reason. I mean, there has been, even though as far as I know, Esselstyn's opinion about nuts is the same, there has been newer studies that have come out since he wrote that book. I mean, it's been a good, 8 to 10 years since Esselstyn wrote Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. So there have been some better, higher levels of evidence that have come out with nut and seed intake that, you know, a lot of times it's difficult because it's associations. We have associations rather than, you know, randomized controlled trials, cause and effect kind of studies. And so, you know, the evidence on nuts and seeds looks good. Looks good for heart health, looks good for longevity and you know, less inflammation, all of those things. Where a lot of that data comes from with Esselstyn's opinion back when he wrote the book was in the brachial artery tourniquet tests that were done that showed that things like oil and nuts and higher fat foods, including processed foods, animal foods, caused decreased dilation of the arteries on the brachial artery tourniquet test. And so he was trying to try to preserve endothelial function and increase the nitric oxide for the relaxation and to reverse heart disease. He was focused on anything that could cause that brachial artery tourniquet test to not dilate the artery. He was saying no to, and so since then there has been some more robust data that kind of puts a little cloud on things like nuts and seeds and even olive oil in some states, because nobody just eats olive oil straight. But when you put a little bit of olive oil in your salad dressing on your salad, then it doesn't seem to, because of all the antioxidants with the vegetables, it doesn't seem to cause inflammation in the arteries. And so that's why, you know, American College of Cardiology, American Heart Association says, well, you know, go for the olive oil if you're going to use oil. Don't use coconut oil. Don't use, you know, things with saturated fat, things like that, because that's the better choice between the two. But then if you're trying to lose weight, so you want to avoid oils and stuff if you're trying to lose weight and things like that. And then of course you don't want to ever eat oil plain, not that we ever would, but so so there's a lot of interpretation with the different levels of evidence and studies and things like that. So that's why we have these debates. But yeah, if you're trying to, I agree with Charlie as far as at this point, if you are just had a heart stent put in, or you're trying to avoid having a heart stent or a bypass, I would still go with what Esselstyn says from his book, even 8 to 10 years ago. I think you'd still be safe with that. But then if you're doing okay and you're not having any more chest pain and you have evidence of reversal of your heart disease, then I think it'd probably be fine to have, you know, that 1/4 cup of nuts or whatever, just because of all the other health benefits.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Trouty.
Yeah, I used to be on statin, and with this kind of a whole food diet, I don't need it anymore. I don't miss it anymore because it has too many side effects. And also I read Ethelstan's book, and I do not cook with olive oil anymore. I put water in the pan and just steam it with water. No, I don't have olive oil in the house no more. I eat every once in a while, maybe 1 or 2 nuts, or just maybe a very small handful of cashew nuts, because it's the protein that my system needs, because I haven't made any lentil or any kind of nothing like that anymore yet. So that's a little bit substitute that I do, but generally I stay away from oils, any kind of oils, but avocados I've had the other day. I take the little ones because they don't go bad as bad. And I put that on that bread I showed you, and spinach underneath, and it works like a charm. It just, I do my own thing, but I gotta live as long as my mom.
Hey, I suspect you likely will. Okay, so we made it another hour and a half, went by pretty quick for me. Hopefully it didn't go by too slow for the rest of you.
I have a quick question, Charlie.
I'll run, go for it.
I love salad, but I'm wondering, is the goal to not add salad dressing to it, or it's okay to have salad dressing on it?
It's okay to have salad dressing. Use balsamic vinegar or a flavored balsamic vinegar. It's the oil dressings that people kind of overdo. So
Okay.
if you're otherwise healthy and you have just a little oil with it, it's probably all right. But if not, we encourage people to use balsamic vinegar and not use the oil with the salad dressing.
Okay, thank you.
That works for you.
Especially if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, if you're trying to lose weight, you don't want the oil.
All right, okay.
But I don't think you are. I
No,
think
I'm
you're
not. Yeah,
you're just trying to stay healthy and
Right.
you've got a good ideal body weight. So
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anyone else? Going once, going twice, 3 times. And next week we're gonna do what? Mood and
How food affects your mood.
okay. And we also are gonna do our happy people actually healthier, and which foods increase happiness. Those are some of the videos that are in store for next week. So look forward to seeing you then.
All right, great class.
Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
All right, have a good
You,
night. Have a
great
good week.
class.
good night.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That was fun.